And today's custom budget PC is fitted into this older Rosewill PC case. Nothing too fancy, but definitely gets the job done. This case features 2x USB 2.0 up top and a microphone and headphone jack. There's the power button and reset button, a DVD/CD-RW optical drive, and there's also one USB 3.0 port over here on the side. That's pretty much for the exterior of the PC case. We'll get into a little bit more later on. Let's take a look inside. Underneath this stock AMD Wraith cooler, there's a Ryzen 5 3600X CPU with 6 cores and 12 threads. And below that is a colorful GTX 1660 Ti graphics card with 6GB of GDDR6 memory. Let's get a better look at that back plate. It's a tight fit for these components in this PC case. You can see that I had to thread these USB and front audio cables right on top of the graphics card. And not to worry though, they aren't touching the fans. And you might think that this card is being suffocated by being so low to the PC case. But as luck would have it, there's actually an air intake grill for the fan above the GPU. Right next to that CPU cooler, there's 16GB of DDR4 3600MHz Timetec Conduit Pinnacle RAM. And Windows 11 Pro is installed on this Timetec MS09 NVMe solid state drive with 512GB in capacity. And this SSD is running at PCIe 3x4 speeds. And that's all packed onto this ASRock A520M-HDV motherboard. And onto the rear I/O, the motherboard, we have 2x USB 2.0, mouse and keyboard PS2 port, an HDMI port, DVI and VGA port that we can't use with this 3600X because there's no integrated graphics, 4x USB 3.2 Gen 1, audio jacks, RJ45 Ethernet port, and on the 1660 Ti there's a DVI port, HDMI 2.0, and DisplayPort 1.4a. The manufacturer label on the power supply is hidden by the PC case right here, but this is a 500 watt OCZ power supply that I repurposed for this build. For cooling, you can see that I managed to install a 120mm air intake fan. There's some grills on the front of the case and one opening at the bottom for airflow. And there's one little 80mm air exhaust fan, which just does enough. And you'll see later on in the gaming test that the CPU cooler is just enough, although temperatures do get a little bit high with some games. So I would recommend installing something like the Thermalred Assassin Spirit 120 V2. It doesn't cost that much and the benefit is just too much to ignore. However, we're sticking to a budget with this PC and I'll leave it up to the customer whether or not they want to install something like this. So this little case doesn't leave much for cable management. A lot of it's hidden by this panel right here, which by the way has a 500GB Seagate 2.5-inch hard drive for extra storage space. And you can see here that it's hiding all the power supply cables. But you know what? I can put my hand in here and I can feel airflow from the air intake fan, so good enough. So I think that about does it for the hardware talk. Let's move on to the video encoding and video render tests. Now we've reached the time to test out a video render in DaVinci Resolve 19. I've got my usual 11 minutes of raw 1080p footage loaded up. Let's see how long this takes to render. With the following settings, here we go. We've completed in 3 minutes and 21 seconds. From my own personal records, we're 1 minute and 1 second more than the best time I have with the Ryzen 7 7500F. And we're wedged right in between the i5-11600KF and i5-10400F. I don't think 3 minutes and 21 seconds is too bad. I will be happy with that. And now let's check out video encoding with Handbrake. We'll be encoding the usual 11 minutes of 1080p gaming footage with the Creator 1080p 60 preset. And this time we're just utilizing raw CPU power. Let's see how long this one takes. And we're coming in at 3 minutes and 36 seconds. So this time with the 3600X is actually very close to our test with the i9-9900K at 3 minutes and 27 seconds. And going back to that i5-11600KF and i5-10400F results, we're again in between, but seeing much better times than the 10th gen i5. And now we'll be utilizing that GTX 1660 Ti with this video encoder. We're still with the same Creator 1080p 60. Let's see how long this one takes. and we're coming into a time of 54 seconds. That time is looking pretty good, just a little bit above an RTX 3060 and only 2 to 4 seconds more than a 3060 Ti and RTX 4060. I'm definitely pleased with those results. Now let's move on to the gaming tests, and I hope you'll be as pleasantly surprised as I was at the performance of this PC. In my humble opinion, it really goes to show that you don't need to spend a great deal of money to get a fully functional gaming PC on a budget. I had a pretty good time putting this together, and part of that is because I'm a little starved for PC builds, and that's largely because of the 2024 Canada Post strike, where a lot of my CPUs and motherboards are just kind of sitting in a warehouse in Canada. Thanks a lot for checking out my video. Definitely let me know if you're using hardware like this going into 2025. Outside of that, long live the budget PC and have a great day.